A couple of forms for you. I've given you kind of a place to start in developing your own budget, your own balance sheet, and your income and expense report. I want you to take this and use it as you think about your own church situation. This obviously is not set in stone. You can change it. You can change the descriptions, the list of accounts and so forth may be not directly applicable to your church, so you can modify it as you need to, but I want you to use this as a starting point, a place to stimulate some thought. As we continue the discussion this afternoon, be thinking about your own church situation there and what those numbers might look like or what you might want them to look like as you move into the future. If you need help with this at any time, I would be more than happy to help you. You can contact me. I think my business card is in the red folder that was passed out to you last night. Or if need be, you can contact us through the Institute website that you see over listed over to your right. To get right back into our discussion from this morning, most of you probably seen this little cartoon I put up on the screen here. I want to talk first of all about an issue that Dennis brought up about communication. And I got this one little cartoon, you probably all read it by now. It says, "Never mind the dramatics, Watkins, just read the budget report." I have it on good authority. Someone told me that that is not Dennis Watkins. Someone said to me that there was a strong family resemblance there. But I told them that I didn't believe it. I don't think it's true. But you can be dramatic. I do want to talk about communication, though, for just a moment. It is extremely important that you communicate accurately and candidly, I believe, with your congregation on some of the issues that we talked about this morning. First of all, provide open, honest communications about financial issues. If you're struggling, don't keep that a secret from folks. Let them know. Be honest with them. Dennis talked about this morning the trouble that you can get into when you start trying to hide that, push it under the rug, so to speak. It can really come back to haunt you if you do. So be honest with people. Let them know if you're struggling. But at the same time, remind people that you're never going to outspend God's vision for your ministry. So you can tell them, yeah, we're going through a tough time, but we're already putting things in place that are going to address a financial situation. And you can be assured that we are going to be the very best stewards that we know how to be with the resources that God places in our hands. Thirdly, when you're talking about finances in the church, stewardship, tell stories of changed lives. I'll tell you a little bit more about this later on, but I think truly this is what people in this day and age, this generation, want to hear. They want to know that their gifts, their tithing and offerings and so forth, are making a difference in people's lives. I had a rather wealthy gentleman come into my office one day a few years back and sat down, and we just started into a general conversation. In the midst of the conversation, he told me, he said, "You know, I have given many, many, many dollars in the ministry over the years." But he said, "Rarely do I ever find out where it goes, not really where it goes, but whether it really makes a difference anywhere or not." And that's really a shame when you stop and think about it. People want to know that what they're doing is making a difference in the kingdom. So tell about how their support of the church and their faithfulness to God and tithing and giving has made differences in people's lives. And then finally, this will get me in trouble, I know, with a lot of folks, but I'm going to say it anyway. Ban the bake sale. Concentrate instead on biblical stewardship. Now, if you want to do bake sales and chili dinners or spaghetti dinners and so forth, and sometimes I know you have to do some of those things to make up the difference. But if you spend your time and energy on those kinds of things as opposed to ministry, then I think you're missing the mark. I really do. I had someone say one time, and it stuck with me. He said, "Ministry does not follow money. Money follows ministry." And I think there's a lot of truth in that statement. That if you're truly ministering, you're truly following the Lord is going to provide some way, somehow, what is going to be needed. So if you want to have a bake sale, you want to have a dinner, a social event, that's great. If occasionally you need to do this to raise some funds, the youth need to do it because they're going on a trip somewhere, that's fine too. But if you concentrate on, every Saturday the whole congregation's out frying chicken and delivering dinners and so forth, I think something may be amiss there and you need to take another look at it. Personal opinion there. As they say on the news, I welcome yours. Reports and reporting. Talk a little bit about a couple of reports that we use within the church. The contribution statement. Those are important that you, two reasons I want to mention this. Number one, if you're not aware of it, you must, by law, get those in the hands of the givers by January 31st after the end of the year. January 31st is the deadline. Secondly, I would suggest, if you only send them out once a year right now, I would recommend that you send them out quarterly, once every quarter. A couple of good reasons for that. Number one, if there are any errors in your records, it's much easier to go back 3 months and find the error and correct it than it is to go back 12 months and find it. Secondly, I've talked to a lot of church administrators, and to a person, they tell me that every time they send out giving statements, giving goes up. It becomes a reminder to people, oh yeah, I've got that building pledge, and I'm getting a little behind on it. I better get that caught up. So I would recommend that if you've got the resources to do it, that you send those contribution statements out once a quarter. Remind people in that, you can put a cover letter with it and tell them all the great things that the Lord is doing in your midst with the giving that they have given. Okay?
You have a question, Ron?
Okay, I'm sorry.
I would just like to go back for a minute. You said to ban the bake sale
Yes.
and concentrate on stewardship.
Yes.
Well, we're the Inner City Church, and the church that we originally, my husband and I originate from, we were taught stewardship. Yet we're a new church, and we're teaching stewardship. So therefore, it has not been grasped in total tithing. So how do you go about, banning bake sale, concentrate on the stewardship when you're still trying to teach people to tithe?
Well, first of all, I recognize what I said is a pretty strong statement. What you're describing, I would say, is that it's a process. You don't get there overnight. You can't just snap your fingers and immediately be where I just described. And it takes time to get there. I would say that even churches that have been around a while, it's my personal conviction that stewardship is something that every church could do better at. Okay, and I'll give you some statistics that may startle you here in a minute about giving and tithing in the church. But that's an issue I think we could all improve upon, and it's a process. You don't get there overnight, and sometimes you do what you have to do to make things work. So I'm not denigrating that whatsoever. That's important. You got to do it. My point is that when you can, you need to really concentrate on the issues of ministry, issues of stewardship, and get away from fundraising and those kinds of retail or business kind of activities you might describe. One last thing I want to say about contribution statements also. There may be times when people want to come to you and say, oh, I was out of town the last Sunday of the month. Here's my tithe check. Can you take it now that it's January the 5th and put it on my last year's record? The answer to that is no, you cannot. The IRS rule on that is you've got to have it in hand by the 31st, or it's got to be in the mail and postmarked by the 31st. So you can accept and post to the previous year tithes and offerings that you get